Hey everyone, we're doing another episode of After Laughter. I'm here with Brian Walters.
Hey!
Great. We have a set of his. This is his first time ever doing stand-up, as he'll say himself in the set. Without further ado.
Hello. This is actually my first stand-up set.
Yeah!
Thank you guys. Thank you. This is very exciting.
Personally, everyone, when they do their first time doing stand-up, if they're on Laughter, they always want to say it. People always want to say, like, this is my first time doing stand-up. The subtext is, so if I suck, don't hate me. But, like, I don't like it because I feel like then the audience is going to it gets a little scared.
From a personal standpoint, I feel like you just have to kind of share that because it is your first time. And I don't know, as soon as I said that, like, I immediately feel at ease. You know, I feel exposed in a good way.
I will say that if there isn't a tension with the performer going on, you should definitely resolve it. So in that aspect, I would say that the personal feeling 100% trumps because, like, once again, this crowd is all on your side here. Listen.
Exciting. Good news. I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary with my girlfriend. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I love a good audience pander because it gets them on your side. It gets them making noise, so it breaks the seal so that they feel more comfortable to make noise later. How do you feel about it, both as a host and as a stand-up?
I think it is a connector, you know? It kind of brings the audience on board, and it relates because everybody hopefully has been through an anniversary or knows someone who's been through an anniversary. So, and I think people in Batsu do that too, to have a relatable quality to get the audience on board with you, you know?
To that point, especially in the opening of sets, the audience might not know who you are. They're getting a feel like, who is this guy? Do I like them? Do I not like them? And so, yeah, it's a good way to sort of start that introduction.
So I do Saw Cinemas. It's my movie night, and that's the other thing that I host besides Batsu. And when I check in with the audience, I just want to get everybody on board. And so that has become a crutch in a sense to be like, you guys want to hear it, right? You know, just to hear everybody say yeah, but I didn't really realize that everyone's been on board since the first 2 laughs, you know?
Yeah, I feel like for good audiences like this, it's a good way to get a free applause. But I will say that there are some audiences who'd be like, you want to hear it, right? And then the audience just goes dead. And then you've created this active tension of, I have to resolve that they didn't want to hear it, but then I also have to continue with the story that I'm definitely going to continue with.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
I feel like,
yeah.
And if you just want to plug Saw Cinemas on this episode, you want to throw out some hashtags?
Sure. I mean, it's totally up in the air as of now, but we were recently featured in Borough Magazine. It's at Saw Cinemas.
Here we go.
The beach, we packed for the beach. We had some beach towels, we had a picnic basket, we had some shades for the sun, we had an umbrella for the sun, we had some SPF for the sun. But of course the universe is like, no sun, only rain. It's gonna be a wet day.
So, one thing I want everyone to notice, including you, as we go through the set, that's the first list so far. There are many lists in the set. I feel like this set is almost like a textbook educational example of how to use lists. A lot of lists are used very well. You'll see throughout this set. If I do an After Laughter or like a Laughter teaching series, this will definitely be the one featured on the list. What are your thoughts on using lists in a stand-up set and their usefulness?
Very useful. It establishes pattern, and you can break that pattern also in a fun way and become a little bit more unpredictable. So you can use it to your advantage. I think this list went a little too long. I was just trying to, you know, mention things that were in what we packed for that day. So I also think because this is a story, I was really thinking about the details, and I love storytelling. But I think the list went a little too long.
Yeah, there's one of those things of you have to keep that tension taut, and it's like the audience starts to get ahead of you if you're not throwing surprises or throwing some sort of musicality change, something in there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that tension gets loose, and then you don't get as big a reaction as you want.
All right. So we're in the car, and it did turn into a really wet day. I had to pee. I was doing the little dance in the car. but I had to keep my foot on the brake.
Another thing I like about you is you're very good at using physicality. I would say next to Paris, you're probably the most physical face-off stand-up. What are your thoughts about? Because a lot of people, us like traditional stand-ups, are afraid to add those physical bits because it can seem fake. But I don't feel like any of yours really come off as fake in this set.
I appreciate that. Growing up, like, you know, storytelling was huge in my household, and my dad was very physical in terms of his actions and movements, so I got that from him. But I'm also, like, trying to use my body type in a sense. I know that I have the body of a Muppet, so I think if you use your Muppetness, you could use it to your advantage.
I like that analogy of basically stand-up is just adult story time. That's how it should be thought of.
On the brake and the gas. Luckily, I didn't have gas. The car had gas. I just had to pee. My girlfriend was sleeping like an angel right next to me. She was napping. She had no idea until she started hearing the groans, like. She's like, oh, what's going on? We have a system of.
It's about to be list number 2. We have the laugh counter and the reaction counter. For this episode, I want the editor to add a list counter. But here we go. Everyone get prepared for list number 2.
Numbers when it comes to peeing. A 1 out of 10 is like, oh, I gotta pee in an hour. I can wait until the end of the movie. You know, a 5 is a little waddle, that, you know, hand in the pocket waddle. And then 9 is like speed walking to the bathroom at the movie theater. 10 is a game over. It already happened. So at this point, I'm at a.
So that list, because it built and it had a trajectory and a heightening, it got an applause break at the end. But what we're noticing as we do more and more of these is you talk through your applause break, which is signaling the audience to like stop applause break.
Yeah. I think, you know, I noticed watching all 3 of the stand-ups that I did, I do rush right through it. And I think it's that Batsu mentality of go, go, go. You know, it's a roller coaster, and if I stop my trajectory, then the audience is going to have a lull, or they're going to zone out, or, you know, something negative. You know, I was watching the other one with Chase, the After Laughter, and I appreciate what you were saying. Like, it is totally about letting the audience breathe with it, and then they'll feel more comfortable, like, laughing later on, you know?
It's a weird way. Each stand-up kind of trains the audience. If the longer your set goes, if you keep like talking over their applause breaks, eventually you're training them to not applause break. I 100% do this myself. I practice, you practice in an isolation bubble. And so a lot of times you don't know when laughs are gonna hit. And so it's hard to like be in the moment with your bit and be in the moment with the audience and being prepared to pause or slow down your bit at any second. Like, because it's hard. You wanna get through your material. Sometimes you prepared it a certain way and a laugh will throw you off, so.
Yeah. The other thing I want to add is the awkwardness of standing there, you know? Like, let's say you do have a great moment and they're applauding and cheering or laughing. You have to kind of stand there and wait for it to die down, you know? I always think about Robert De Niro now when he goes to a talk show and he just does not give a hoot, you know, about everyone clapping and the standing ovation, and he's just waiting for it to end and just waiting for it to, you know, it goes on for a minute and a half, and then finally it dies down and gives nothing.
It does not care.
Yeah.
We are stuck in traffic on the way to dinner at City Island. Obviously, City Island is surrounded by water. There was a lot of running water that day. There were water balloon fights. There were kids playing with hydrants. Very dangerous.
List number 3.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, we get the big laugh by subverting the list here.
Fights. There were kids playing with hydrants. Very dangerous.
Yeah, because the audience was expecting your list trajectory to go on. By breaking from it and being very dangerous, we get a really big laugh there. Which I like, and there's 1,000 other ways to use lists. So, for this first 2 minutes, we have a laugh about every 9.2 seconds, and the audience has been reacting for about 26.7% of the time. So, it's always, the first bit always tends to be the slowest, just because you're ramping into the audience, and what we found is above about 25% audience reaction is like a good set, and then above like 30%, it tends to be like our amazing gold standard sets. And I'm saying that now so that later we can see which moments make that. What are your thoughts on those first 2 minutes?
Considering it's my first time, I look back at it fondly, you know. This was a crazy real life story that happened, and it's kind of fun now to relive it through this stand-up.
Oh, it's a great set. And the thing is, like, yes, your first time doing stand-up, but not by far your first time performing. So it's like, yeah, all those skills are comparable. And to those at home, stand-up, not as hard as you think. Also very hard, but also not as hard as you might think. Great, let's keep going.
My girlfriend's making great suggestions. You know, why don't you just pull over? Can't. There's a traffic cop right there. Why don't you just get off at the next exit and use the bathroom? That's a great idea, but we are running late to dinner right now.
Another list.
She's like,
Yeah.
Brian, psst, Brian, psst, Brian. That's all I'm hearing. Hey, little by little.
See, a little bit of a applause break again that we talk over. That's starting. Because I love that joke. I love that joke so much. How it morphs into that. I love that joke. But yeah, we didn't get the full
Little, it's becoming.
audience payoff. Your thoughts on that joke?
It's a dad joke, you know. Like I don't know. I get a lot of my humor from my dad, my childhood. So like I imagine that's a joke that my dad would have said. There was another one earlier too that just made me shake my head and think, God, that's such a dad joke. But I guess that's what Batsu is a lot of too, you know.
Oh, it's just like dad jokes with penises in there somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Beginning of Saving Private Ryan, where I'm looking at my girlfriend's mouth, she's like, Brian, piss, Brian.
What I like about that personally is it's a very big bit. Like you take on like there's like a slow-mo motion, there's a big voice happening, but it doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel like you're trying to do a bit right now too much, which is one of the risks when you do a big like physical or vocal sort of joke.
Yeah, I was trying to think like what could be my unique
Take on stand-up, and you know I veered off from it with the most recent one, and after rewatching all these I'm thinking like I want to go back to what I originally was going for, which is like storytelling with movie references that everybody can get, you know, because I love movies, I love movie references, so hearing that kind of thing makes me happy, and so I thought I would include that Saving Private Ryan moment.
While we're adding extra counters to this set, let's do a movie reference counter as well. This will be one. We almost have this metagame of specific Tom Hanks movies going through this, and then we break it for Marvel later, but I don't want to spoil too much.
And I am struggling. We finally get to City Island. I'm at a 9 out of 10 at this point. It is not looking good for me. I'm coming up with backup emergency plans. I'm like, what do we have? We have the picnic basket. That plan.
Another list.
That plan has holes in it. We have a coffee cup. That is not the coffee cup. But it was a.
I love that joke so much that we had the coffee cup, because I'm assuming you brought the coffee cup there specifically for that joke.
Just for that joke, yeah.
But it doesn't. Once again, it doesn't seem like you did that. Like to us, it just seems like, oh yeah, this coffee cup that I just also happen to have on stage that I very consciously brought there. But that's like the artistry of stand-up, is that we did this very intentional thing, but we make it really seem like in the moment and for the first time. Yes. Yeah. Acting chops.
It was a large coffee cup, all right? And I was like, there's a large coffee cup. Luckily, I didn't have to poop. Coffee usually makes me poop. I would have been shit out of luck at that point. Yeah, I made that noise too. I was like, oh.
Third applause break.
Yeah.
This one we let go a little bit longer. But what was it? We'll do all the counters for this episode. Also an applause break counter. We have 3 applause breaks. Your face will just like won't even be there by the end. It'll just be all these different
Brian,
counters.
stay in the middle right here.
Yeah. Physical movements counter.
It was looking bad. We got into City Island. I'm looking for a secluded place to pee, and the first place I see is a church. I'm like, nope, that's a holy place. All right. Second place I see is an elementary school. I'm like, nope, Not going on any list tonight. Third place
I'm not going on any list. I'm just making them.
Right.
place I see is parking. Oh, parking. I'm like, yes, pull over. Hindsight 2020, it said valet parking. I drove right past the valet. I didn't give a fuck. I just went right in there. It was very difficult. There were a lot of people in the parking lot. I ended up just going straight back to the sidewalk, and it was 10 out of 10 time. I was unbuttoning myself and just...
So we are now at the second 2-minute mark. How do you compare the second 2 minutes to the first 2 minutes? Just like without looking at the numbers.
Yeah, I feel like we're in the middle of the roller coaster right now. You know, I hope and I feel that everyone is like on board now, and they're like, "Where's this going?" Like the twists and turns, and I might throw up right now. You know.
So just so you know, we've gotten 9 laughs in this 2 minutes section, which is 4 less laughs, but the audience has reacted for 36 seconds, so for 30% of the time. So we've had less laughs, but they've lasted longer, each one of them. So the audience, I feel like the audience is sort of sitting in and getting their like, comfortable to laugh longer. And we've exactly hit that sort of 30%, like gold standard, good, amazing set benchmark now.
Cool.
And just about to go for it, and I tell Akriti, my girlfriend, pop the lid. And she just popped the coffee cup lid, and I just, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah. You know, surprisingly, it was kind of like Tom Hanks in Green Mile. I was like, yes, oh God. I was very surprised with myself because I had to pee so bad. I was clenching so hard that my penis retracted into my body. I did not know I could be uncircumcised again. It was pretty fucking bad. I'm peeing and this cup is filling up pretty fast when I see the valet in the side mirror walking up to the car.
So this is one of those great moments when I feel like movie storytelling aligns with stand-up storytelling, and that like in the movie it'd be like bum, bum, you just like see the feet of the person walking and like growing this tension. But I feel like we're utilizing the same tension here to sort of get laughs. What are your thoughts on those sort of parallel elements?
Yeah, that's what I was going for, you know. I think it's effective to plant a couple seeds. You know, maybe it's not a sunflower, it's like a Venus flytrap, you know?
And to that, I just thought about this. A lot of times we think about stand-up, we think about, okay, setup, punchline. But very rarely do we think of setup in minute 1 and then minute 8. Oh, you guys remember that? Punchline, like from, the longer over the whole set sort of things, as far as like the Chekhov's gun of punchlines.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that just like popped up to me from what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like rap also, right? Where you have different rhyme schemes happening at the same time. It's not just A-B.
And I have to change up my flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was just one flow because I didn't have enough thing. I didn't have enough things so that I could change up my flow. Please, editor, just cut all of that out. Don't leave any of that part in. He can have way too much fun with that. I hope he doesn't.
So I'll bring up your rap again later so that it does have to bring up.
Just like every second. Going back to your rap so that it has to stay in. Great.
And I'm like, oh shit. She's being very accommodating, very helpful. She's like, sir, I'm a valet. This is valet parking. I can help you park. And I'm not a bad person, but I'm like, get the fuck out of here! Get out! What are you doing? She's walking up.
Once again, a very big, emotional, physical voice bit, but I didn't feel like you're trying to be funny. I didn't feel like you're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
That was real. I was channeling what happened the week before.
Walking up to the window, like, guys, I'm pretty sure she saw my sweaty face. You know, she might have seen the cup of piss, but she definitely saw my dick. Oh yeah, she definitely saw it. The cup was...
I specifically remember writing that joke with you because I remember that we got it specific to the wording of she maybe saw this, she probably blah 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 blah, she definitely, like, we spent so much on this, like the exactness of that language,
wording,
and I think it really pays off.
I'm like, Akriti, open the door! And I just pour the cup out. I forgot to mention, I stopped my pee. Guys, you wouldn't believe me, but I did it. I was making noises like Captain America from Winter Soldier when he's holding that helicopter. He's like, or when Thor is in Infinity War, like holding the door open, like, I was holding my dick back, like, and poured the cup out. Started cup number 2, the Pequel. Thank you. Now, I'm filling up...
There's 2 7-second laughs, and that's one of them. That's my favorite joke of the set, but it's very dad jokey to your point earlier.
I'm noticing we should definitely add a counter for the amount of grunting that I'm doing.
And add a counter as well while you're at it.
Make it a drinking game. Yeah, I feel like maybe I pushed too many movie references right there.
Oh, you mean just like right in a row instead of like dropping them one at a time?
Yeah. It's just like boom, boom. I was having too much fun with it, too passionate about Marvel, so. But yeah.
When I poured out the cup number 1, the valet went, "What the fuck?" and just walked out of there. Now, this car came into the parking lot.
This 2 minutes is the 2 minutes you got the most laughs of any of the 2 minutes. You got 14 laughs. A lot of them have been smaller laughs, other than that like big 7-second one that we just looked at. Overall, the audience has interacted with you for about 38 seconds, so about 31.7% audience interaction, which is like well above our sort of like gold standard line. So it's interesting to hear people's feelings like intrinsically to it, and then looking at the numbers. Because sometimes when it feels slow, or it's like it's just like maybe the audience has been enjoying it more than like you, the comedian, have been like pushing it or whatever, or like the laughs have lasted longer. Because like if you can get like a ha 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 ha, and it feels really good, but if the audience's laughs are only like 0.2 seconds long, I'd rather have like blah 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 audience laughs for 10 seconds in a row. It doesn't feel like it feels differently, but. It's just interesting to know.
It is interesting. I love this about After Laughter,
Parking lot where we're stuck in the sidewalk, and it's this older couple. They're looking like Carl and Ellie from Up before Ellie died. It was a beautiful evening, I'm sure, but they were honking at me. I felt a lot of pressure, and down here too, a lot of pressure. And I'm filling up that second cup, and I pour it out again, and the valet is coming back with her supervisor. And I hear a really sharp, "Sir?" And I feel like a kid again. You know when your mom is like, "Brian!" with that tone? Probably not, because your name is probably not Brian. But it felt like that. I felt like a raccoon that was like, bunch of lights on the raccoon. I was like, oh God, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I'm telling my girlfriend, pull out of park. Mind you, my girlfriend has never driven a car before. She does not have a license. I'm telling her, like, push that button, pull from P to D. Pull from P to D. When I woke up that morning and I was like, hey girl, I'm gonna put my D in your P, I did not think I would be paying for my D in public, alright? There were passerbyers walking around my piss puddle.
Yeah, that's something that when I hear you tell that joke, I don't know, just from seeing you in Boston so much, it feels off-brand for you. Like, it's not a bad joke, but I'm like, I don't expect it from you.
Good.
I hope that's not a joke that I forced on you. You're like, God damn it, William. Is the period where you had the biggest lull as far as like the most words without laughing. And it's one of those things where it's always a balancing act between like, okay, am I giving enough information that I'm then going to leverage later and it'll be worth it on the back end, or am I being too storytelling? The efficiency of like, I want to tell a story, but I also have to make the story funny, so I either have to make the exposition a joke, or I might have to just like cut things that I like in the story but aren't good for stand.
It's tough, I think it is about editing. I think the car, for example, with the Carl and Ellie, like, that happened in real life, but I think I could have kept that out, Could have saved maybe like 20 seconds right there, kept the momentum up, but I don't know what I could have done. I had to have something in between with the valet coming back with her manager.
It's one of those things where we could iterate infinitely, it's like, it'll never be perfect, but it's worth noting what things you think are important that you need to take out and what things you think are unimportant that you need to put in, like the picnic basket. There's definitely a difference between like the audience being bored and the audience actively listening, but they just haven't been inspired to laugh yet. There's like Mike Birbiglia tells stories, and there are huge swaths of time where there's no joke or whatever, but the audience hasn't disengaged. So it is worth noting in those. None of these lulls have felt like, oh God, which is good.
Piss puddle.
Oh, 1 second. This is a joke that the audience didn't like. That is I like it a lot.
My piss puddle.
I love Piss Puddle. I think in a different audience, Piss Puddle could have gotten a laugh, but this audience, they weren't ready.
In public, all right. There were passerbyers walking around my piss puddle. They were going like, "What's going on here?" And the lady yelled at me, and I just went into the street. I swerved into the street.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But your kids are gonna love it.
Going like, "What's going on here?" And the lady yelled at me, and I just went into the street. I swerved into the street. Luckily, no one was hurt. But of course, the first thing I see is this beautiful parking lot. No valet, just spacious, private, just beautiful place to piss 2.5 cups. Like, of course. We finally get to dinner. It was a great time. I luckily had a bathing suit that we packed. I changed into the bathing suit. My girlfriend was being very accommodating, very understanding. She gave me a lot of shit the next morning, but that's okay. I can't believe I just told you guys that story. I feel like that's a story I would only tell a best friend of mine or something, so I guess that makes you guys my best friends. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Me personally, I'm a big fan of like a heartfelt ending. Although what I have found is sometimes, at least personally, I've done these big like, you just gotta live your best life and like love people, blah 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 endings, and it screws over the comedian after me, because the comedian after me is like, who wants to talk about dicks? But it's hard to do that after someone's like, and the soul and the heart of the matter, and we'll all persevere.
I know it was a crazy story. I know it was a good story to share. But I thought this is the best way to end it, and this is the only time I can really use it. So I'm glad I used it, at least for my first one, you know?
So, how do you think the last bit did compared to the other 2-minute sections? What roller coaster are we on?
I think there was a last little fun dip, like a bring it home type of rush, and then it was nice smooth sailing home, you know?
So it's like a log flume, that one big splash, and then the...
Yeah! Splash Mountain, baby. You got it.
This last section, we got 11 laughs. It's about a laugh every 12 seconds, but 40 seconds of audience reaction time for 30.7%. So we're still above that 30 mark. So overall, for the whole set, we got a laugh about every 10.4 seconds, which is great. And our overall audience reaction is 29.8%.
Ooh.
Because of the beginning, it's just slightly below for the whole set being just like which goes like, if you want to do the set again, you could easily make it amazing if we just like tightened up the beginning. So we know where we'd want to edit things. Our biggest laugh was like 7 seconds long, and I think there were a few of those. And our biggest lull was 21 seconds long. We know where that is. One thing I ask all the after laughters is, all the things we've talked about, what are your do's and don'ts looking at this set and what we've talked about specifically?
Yeah, looking at this, I do want to do another like storytelling type of stand-up set. I have so many crazy stories, but I think doing the different voices helps a lot, and definitely my body mannerisms and movements helped a lot. My most recent stand-up, I didn't do any body movements. I just...
Now that I think about it, you didn't. Yeah, and you felt wonkier about the newest set than any of them.
So wonky. So wonky. But, you know, it was worth a try, and I'm so glad that I did it. Movie references again, different voices, different characters, and I think that's my strength, so I need to stick to my strengths, I think.
So what would your don't be? Things that you did in this set that if you were going to do it again, or do a similar set, that you would not do next time?
There are some moments in the set where I say something because I don't remember where I'm at in the set, or I'm uncomfortable, or I think it's funny, but I noticed that there was no reaction. So I need to keep it tighter, I think. But maybe that is also my strength, you know, where I have these spontaneous little lines that I say that I didn't prepare. And maybe that's something that people also look for. I don't know.
Yeah, so it depends on what style we end up. I will say, if we're gonna leave space for the audience, one, I'd say don't talk over your applause breaks if I'm gonna cut in.
Right. Yes.
And then to that end, when we were talking about those active just like sitting and waiting while the audience does that, I think those ad-lib lines help the most there. When like we've just waited for the audience to laugh, we just sort of comment like, oh, you guys really like that one, or like, and it was a two-seater car or whatever. I think those like little ad-lib lines are a great way to come out naturally of an applause break and then ramp back into your set. So if I was going to utilize them anywhere, that's how I would utilize them.
It's it also could keep the reaction time going a little bit longer too, you know.
We have found in some sets that someone will get an applause break, and if they do an ad-lib line, like it's almost like surfing. If you do the ad-lib line at just the right time, it reignites the wave again, and the applause break then like double, and you can keep riding the wave out.
Yeah, bro.
Example of that. Yeah.
Shaka. The other thing I noticed is that my style hasn't changed in the last 2 years. I am wearing a brand new shirt right now, and that shirt that we're seeing on screen looks almost exactly the same. If you want my Stitch Fix code, hit me up on Instagram.
Any words before we conclude this episode?
I definitely want to revisit the set, you know, in terms of like working on it and performing it again and seeing how it could be altered, or see if I can stretch out the reaction time a little bit longer, or, you know, make that 47 laugh count to 60 or something like that, you know, have new goals for myself.
Great. This has been After Laughter. Check out Salt Cinemas, which we'll probably put all the info down in the description, as well as Brian Walter's social media.